Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Weinstein.
I'm Jasmine Clark.
And this is a Suburban Women Problem, a weekly podcast from Red, Wine, and Blue. It's pretty obvious the GOP has a suburban women problem, and we're here to talk about it. This week, we talked to Pennsylvania State Senator Amanda Cappelletti. I was so excited to talk to Amanda and all of the things she had to say, the ridiculous things about book bans, but maybe the most ridiculous thing was having to hear the GOP call you a baby killer while you were actually she was actually pregnant.
Yeah, I think that whether it's book bans, whether it's trying to change your slogan from pro-life to pro-baby, or whether it is calling pregnant people baby killers because you can't wrap your head around the fact that being for reproductive rights does not mean that you want to kill babies. The Republicans really have a hard time with reality. And, they just really struggle. I just can't understand why they have such a hard time.
Oh, amen. I completely agree. I can't wait for you all to hear about the amazing work that Amanda's been doing in Pennsylvania. Here it is.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Jasmine. Thank you so much for having me.
We are excited to have you on. So I want to start by asking you about your anti-book ban bill. So book bans are still on the rise, still a thing, and Pennsylvania has seen even more than most. I'd love to hear about your bill and why it's important.
I'll start with, it came to me through constituents. When Illinois passed their law, I have some great, very active constituents that I represent. They've reached out and they said, we need to do something like this in Pennsylvania. And I said, you got it. We did some research and we've kind of crafted it in the same vein as Illinois' law, where we're requiring libraries to adopt either the ALA, Bill of Rights, the American Library Association's Bill of Rights, that's indicating that they will not pare down their materials based on doctrinal or partisan or religious reasons. And if they don't do that, then they need to institute their own internal policy that they implement in order to continue to receive state funding. And I think that is the reason we're doing that, is because we are seeing legislation from representatives and senators who are saying, oh, this isn't a book ban, this isn't a book ban, but the practical implications of their bill or that policy is a book ban.
I think it's also crazy a little bit, like how they're like, oh, we're not banning books. We're just saying, like, you can't read this book or access this book or have this book in your classroom or your library or your public library. But we're not banning it. No. Banning is such a strong word.
Or defunding all fun, or defunding all libraries, but somehow that's not.
Yeah, exactly.
And really what I want people to do is, because that is what you're doing. You're the way we're set up now. If you don't want your child to read that book, and here in Pennsylvania, as part of the classroom curriculum, if you don't want your child to read that book, you talk to your teacher, you can have them exempted from it. You can talk to your librarian and make sure that your child is accessing different books that interest them and keeping them away from books that you don't approve of. All I'm asking is for us to trust the experts, the librarians and the teachers. I don't know if you guys know this. They don't make millions of dollars.
No,
they're not in this.
Can verify.
None of them are getting rich off of this.
No, nobody is in this for the paycheck. People, librarians, teachers, they are the experts in this area because they're passionate about literature. They're passionate about teaching and students and critical thinking and all of the things that go into that. So I'm going to go ahead and trust those people who have spent their life becoming that expert. And becoming that expert because they care, not because they're making millions of dollars.
I love that. And you're also trusting parents, because you're saying you can exempt your own child, but you can't exempt someone else's child. They are the expert on their child.
Exactly. I don't want... You can say it's not okay for your child, but you can't tell me it's not okay for mine. My child should still be able to access these books. And to be frank, all of the books that are on these lists, I want my daughter to be able to access one day when she is reading on her own.
So that's the interesting thing about word choice with them, because truly parents' rights would be, I as a parent have a right for my child to have access to this book, and you as a parent have a right for your child to not access the books you don't want them to access. That's true parental rights. And so when we hear all this stuff about parents' rights and this and parents' rights that, I think that Democrats and people like you, they have the right formula. The right formula is don't take away another parent's rights to have their child have access to the books that they want to have access to. It's just that simple. So they've co-opted the words, but the policy behind it is actually completely opposite to what they're actually saying. And so, we all know that these book bans are like super unpopular. Like no one likes them. Not even Republicans like them, honestly. But for some reason, despite all this polling and all these people that say they're not for book bans, the bans keep happening. And so I think, as you said earlier, while people are telling them, oh, it's not a ban, quote unquote ban, how can our listeners really talk to their friends and neighbors about what's going on with book bans and the things that they can do to kind of stop or slow this train that's been going on despite everyone saying we don't want this?
I think there are a couple of things that we can do, and it starts with the conversation and the way you're phrasing it. What you said is right, Jasmine. Like, we need to phrase it in like, this is my right. My right to have my child access this book does not infringe on your right to have your child not access that book. Whereas the opposite is true in what's happening. You're stripping away my child's ability to access a book because you don't like it and you don't want your child to read it. So therefore, no child should read it. I think we really need to double down on that language and help people understand what's really happening. Because if it really were about the sex or the violence or anything like that, the Bible wouldn't be allowed in the library. And these are people who—
or Romeo and Juliet, for that matter.
Yeah.
Oh, so bad.
But we know that those are books that that aren't being banned. They're not being targeted, right? If you're talking to somebody that does understand or is empathetic to the idea that really these bans are targeting minority populations and trying to erase their existence out of our libraries, our literature, and really just trying to take us back to, I don't know, like the 1940s where it was like one point of view and that was it. And if you were different, well, too bad. It's still one point of view. Kind of a mentality. If you have people, help them understand that it is the LGBTQ community, it is women of color whose books are being stripped out of here that are talking about what it's like to be a person of color growing up in specific areas. Like, so many good, rich books are being stripped out or attempted to be stripped out of our libraries and our curriculum. So there's that. And I think the other thing I want people to know is this is the vocal minority. That is the problem. These policies are pandering to the vocal minority. So let's be the vocal majority. Get out there. Tell your legislator you don't agree with this. Like, wherever you are, tell them you're happy if they are protecting the right to read. Tell them you're not happy with them if they're trying to support book bans or really kind of any of these fringe ideas that are happening. That's the real problem in all of this is we're a little too apathetic. We're not necessarily digging in and getting involved and saying, like, these are the things we want to see, and these are the things that they don't want to see happening. And, we just hear this vocal minority. So it sounds like they're the ones that are the ones that have the most support. Even though
they're very loud.
That's not true. Yes. So
they can be very loud,
yeah.
and sometimes
just squeaky wheels.
It's a squeaky wheel and a loud voice, not the majority. But I love that your anti-book ban bill came from people coming to you, real people, constituents, saying, this is something I want. I don't want book bans. We need an anti-book ban bill to protect our children and to protect my rights as a parent and what I want for my kid. I think it really says a lot that people are able to come to you and you were able to do something about it, and people can see some action coming out of what they wanted. And I know while you were doing this, you were also the first Pennsylvania senator to give birth while in office. What was it like to juggle a newborn with budget season and all the fun of being a state senator?
So this is one of the few times I think I can really say with sincerity, my Republican colleagues were very gracious and supportive of me taking the time I needed to be with my daughter. And they were very excited when I did show up and they got to meet her. And we call her the bipartisan baby because of that. It helped make connections. So I live in and represent a very progressive district. And I get to be that elected official that gets to rally on about the environment, about the book bans and stopping them. I get to talk about criminal justice reform in really progressive ways. And that's what my community is really passionate about, those things. That's who they are by and large. Abortion rights, all of those things. So when I first came in, I was kind of seen as like, from a lot of the Republicans, they didn't necessarily want to try and make those connections. They didn't
trust you. Like, who's that dim over there? We don't trust her.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
I know.
So when I became human to them by starting my process of trying to start a family, it started with, and not to get on a serious note, but I had 2 miscarriages leading up to the birth of my daughter. And I've been very open about that. And I speak about it every October because that's Pregnancy and Infancy Loss Awareness Month. I have legislation to help address paid time off when pregnancy loss happens. And I have bipartisan support because of that. So like I started to become human in that way. So as we got to budget season, I am grateful. I have the best staff in the world, if you ask me. They make me look good. They were out there. They kept me up to date in all the best ways. So I was able to participate through legislative leave, kept on top of it, but I didn't have to be in Harrisburg. I could be home with my daughter doing those things. So it was definitely hard, but I mean, you're not sleeping at that time anyway. So what else are you doing? Just catching up on the videos of the budget hearings and whatnot. Why not?
Oh man, that's so exciting. I love babies. And I love that like you found a way to kind of connect with the other side of the aisle. As someone who is also in the minority in my chamber, I always look for those ways. What do we have in common? What is something that we can talk about? Is it sports? Is it, our kids or, that something? And so it seems like you found a way, and the birth of your child, I think it humanizes you, but I also secretly, I think there are Republicans that believe Democrats don't have babies because they've been told that we quote hate babies and we kill babies and all these things. And so when they see a Democrat that's pregnant, that it's like their brain is like, wait, does not compute. I don't understand. I thought you guys don't like having babies. And I'm like, no, giving people choices about their reproductive health care is not the equivalent of I don't like babies and I don't want to have one. And so I love that you kind of in your face was like, look, Democrats are not what you say we are. Even if that's not what you're meaning to do.
I love that you say that because even why I believe it was said while I was pregnant, we were called baby killers on the floor of the Senate.
Oh my gosh.
That is the honest to God's truth. Now, granted, there was a point of order, things happened behind the scenes, but one of my Republican colleagues saw fit as we were debating a constitutional amendment to ban abortion in Pennsylvania, whether I saw fit to call us baby killers for it.
I can't stand that. It's so hyperbolic and also so untrue. So many of my Democratic colleagues are parents. Some of them are young parents, all of these different things. I'm talking about parents of toddlers and stuff. So this idea, I'm glad you were able to kind of show them in their face that was wrong. But I think you also kind of give a great perspective on why it's so important to have young parents in elected office. So it's that, but it's also just your perspective on book bans is probably very different than the 80-year-old guy who maybe has grandchildren that are in school, maybe, but they're not the ones sending their kid off to school at 7:00 in the morning. They don't know what's going on in the school library. They don't know what's going on in the classroom. They're just arguing for things because someone told them they should and not because they actually have that perspective. So I think it's awesome. So why do you think it's important to have young parents in elected office?
Well, I think you're spot on with they're not actively involved. they're not actually actively involved in being kept up to date on the literature that's being read, right? A lot of these books, some of it's the classics, right? We know that's happening. Catcher in the Rye, like there are so many things, but there are a lot more new books that younger people are reading that are part of the curriculum that the older generation haven't read. They don't have an interest in reading them. And I have read them. Like one book that's on the list is Kite Runner, right? Like I've read that book and it is so emotional and good. Mm-hmm. I loved it. So if that's on my child's reading list, like I know what that is versus the people who are trying to ban it might not have actually read it from end to end and maybe just an excerpt. Yep. So I think that's such a great point, Jasmine. I think the other thing, and not even just being a young parent, but being so new in this, I'm taking my experiences, like I said, with the pregnancy loss. I had issues with lactation that like I'm looking into that, finding childcare.
You can relate.
Affording childcare. Like there's a whole new perspective that men aren't thinking about.
I love that you use kind of being a mom as like, this is how it makes me a better state senator. This is how it makes me better represent the people I'm supposed to represent. Now, I know as a woman, you've probably gotten the question, right? But how do you balance it all? Which they never seem to ask the dads who are elected. So instead, what do you wish people would ask you about being a mom and a state senator?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. What do I wish people would ask about being a mom and a state senator? I think I'd want people to ask, like, what's your why? Like, why do you want to do this? Right?
That's a great question.
My why when I ran, there's still a lot of overlap. I'm still passionate about the same things I was when I ran. But now that I have a little girl, some of those things hit differently. And I will point out when it came to our gubernatorial election, we had an extremist on the right that's, basically like you're a murderer for abortion at the point of conception, like anything there, versus who we have now, our governor, Josh Shapiro. He's great, full access. That was all happening when I found out I was pregnant. And then I found out I was having a little girl. And like, there was a lot of anxiety there. So like my why now is like, not only am I passionate about these things, but I'm passionate about these things because I want my daughter to have a better life. I want it to look better and different for her than it did for me and than it does right now.
I love that because there's such a narrative of like, I don't know, like you have to stop being you when you're a mom. There's a little bit of that. I get it's like outdated, I think, but like you can be you and more. And like you can be the same state senator with the same whys, but have even more whys from that. That is such a great answer. All right, Amanda, thank you for joining us today on the Suburban Women Problem.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.